Welcome to another edition of the U.S. Office of Special Counsel's video series on the Hatch Act. Please be sure to visit our website at www.osc.gov to view the full series of videos. In this video, we will explain the Hatch Act Solicitation Prohibition, which applies at all times, even when employees are off duty, not at work, or on annual or sick leave. Specifically, the Hatch Act prohibits employees from knowingly soliciting, accepting, or receiving a political contribution from any person. But it does not prohibit employees from making a political contribution provided they are off duty and not at work. So what is a political contribution? Well, simply put, a political contribution can include anything of value made for the purpose of supporting or opposing a political party, partisan political group, or candidate for partisan political office. But, for example, a political contribution does not include a donation to support a nonpartisan organization, like a 501c3 charitable organization, or a donation made in connection with other nonpartisan issues like ballot measures or constitutional initiatives. Now that we're familiar with the basics of this prohibition, we are going to address some frequently asked questions. For all these examples, assume the employee is off duty and away from the workplace. A question we often receive is whether the Hatch Act solicitation restriction applies to social media use. The rule is simple. The Hatch Act prohibits solicitation by any means, including email, regular mail, in-person communications, and social media. For example, you cannot send or forward an email that asks for a political contribution or informs recipients why and how to donate to a political party or candidate's campaign, or one that invites others to a political fundraiser. This restriction likewise applies to social media activity. Therefore, sharing, liking, tweeting, or retweeting any message that includes a request for political contributions is prohibited. Let me give you some specific case examples of federal employees who violated this prohibition and received significant suspensions, ranging between 7 to 120 days. In the first case, an employee forwarded one email from a political party to 40 coworkers and family members while he was on duty. The email not only encouraged voter support for a presidential candidate, but also provided a link for recipients to donate to the campaign. This next case involves an employee who sent emails and posted Facebook messages in support of a political party and its candidates. Many of the messages solicited political contributions and included information about fundraisers. In a more recent case, an employee posted one message to LinkedIn that encouraged his followers to contribute to a congressional candidate. The last example is the most serious of all because it involved a supervisory attorney responsible for conducting Hatch Act training for her staff, who disregarded the rules and invited a subordinate to a political fundraiser. And in inviting the subordinate, acknowledged that this was a little outside the rules. This case resulted in the supervisor's removal from federal employment. Another commonly asked question is, may a federal employee give a speech at a candidate's fundraising event or help organize such an event? The answer depends on whether you are less restricted or further restricted under the Hatch Act. For less restricted employees, merely giving a speech is fine, as long as you do not request donations during the speech and you speak in your personal capacity. Similarly, less restricted employees may help organize a fundraising event, for example, by selecting a venue or decorating. But further restricted employees are prohibited from acting in concert with a political party, partisan political group, or candidate for partisan political office. Therefore, they may never speak at a candidate's fundraising event or help organize any campaign events. If you're unsure of whether you are a further restricted employee, please visit OSC's website or contact the Hatch Act unit directly to find out. Also frequently asked is whether an employee can host a political fundraiser at their house. An employee may never host a political fundraiser in their home or anywhere else, but others who live in the home who are not federal employees may host a fundraiser in the shared home. However, care must be taken to ensure that the employee does not appear to be the host of the event. For example, the employee's name should not be on invitations to the fundraiser as a host or point of contact for the event, and the employee should not make any introductions or speeches at the event. What about asking for non-financial contributions to help a political party, partisan political group, or candidate for partisan political office? For example, can an employee assisting a campaign call a local business and ask it to donate food or other services to a campaign event? The answer is no. Remember, a political contribution can include anything of value made for a political purpose. A donation of food or services would constitute a political contribution for purposes of the Hatch Act, and therefore employees may not solicit, accept, or receive such donations. Lastly, there is a narrow exception to the Hatch Act solicitation prohibition that applies to employees who are part of the same labor organization, that is, a union. If you are a member of a union with a PAC, a political action committee, here's how the exception works. Members of a union may solicit, accept, or receive a political contribution only if the person solicited belongs to the same federal labor organization, the person solicited is not a subordinate, the request is for a contribution to the Federal Labor Organization Multi-Candidate Political Committee, and the solicitation occurs while off-duty and outside the workplace. So for example, if you are a union member, you may go to your local union hall and ask other members to contribute to the union's PAC, provided you are not on duty or in a federal workplace, and the members you're soliciting are not subordinates. This concludes our video on the Hatch Act's fundraising prohibition. If you have any questions, please contact the U.S. Office of Special Counsel's Hatch Act Unit at 800-854-2824 or at hatchact@osc.gov.